Okay, I'm working on something that I call the shit show. I don't know if that's a name or a brand or what we're going to do with it, but what I want to start doing with these videos is focusing on what makes either working at or starting your own company feel often like a shit show. One of the places where this happens most is this contradiction. It's either a contradiction in what's being told of you that's expected or in advice that you're getting or hearing, where it feels like two different parties are saying things that are in direct contradiction to one another. An example of this would be the old adage, early bird gets the worm, right? So be first to market, be an early riser, be the first one that shows up. But the second adage is second mouse gets the cheese, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. But now you have to figure out, do I want to be the early bird or do I want to be the second mouse? So I think it's worth dissecting some of these. And the first one I want to sort of pick on is this one. It's an amazing book. It's called The $1 Trillion Coach. It's about the life of Bill Campbell, which if you haven't heard of Bill Campbell, is more reason to read the book. It's eye-opening, just the level of impact and influence that this individual had on the entire ecosystem of Silicon Valley that we know about today. But written by folks like Eric Schmidt. I won't go in, it's not a book review, so I'm not going to go into it, but amazing book, fantastic if you want that history lesson, even better if you're thinking about getting a mentor, being a mentor, or even just having a coach in business or in life. I think there's a lot of aspects in there. But that aside, there's two things from the book, right? I love the book, fantastic book, can't recommend it more. But it's something that I found interesting. Early in the book's chapters, it talks about this topic that Bill was pretty hot on, where he wanted you in a meeting to be present. He found it very insulting if you were on your laptop or on your computer or doing anything else other than listening to who was presenting at the given meeting. Now, we've probably all heard this. When you're in a meeting, someone say laptops down or screens closed, and we know this concept of being present. But what I thought was most interesting and what kind of makes things feel like a shit show is towards the last chapters of the book, they tell this classic story of Bill where he's coaching a girls' flag football team in Palo Alto, and he goes to them and brags about how he put their plays together while attending meetings all day at Google. And so this is that contradiction where on one level, Bill tells you, hey, have the respect, be present. But on another, he shows his dedication to one group by almost disrespecting another group and says that in those meetings at Google, he was not present. Now, we see this often. Like what I really want to talk about is what do we do with this? How do we get past this? How do we figure out which side is right, which side is wrong? And so, it's less about sort of Bill's exact example and more like I want to talk about the meetings in general. Like there's two sides to it. And I'm of the camp that we have to have respect, not only for the presenter, but for the people in the audience. We have to believe that we can multitask, that I can both respond to a Slack message and hear everything that you're saying. We also have to put some onus back on the presenter. Respect isn't one of those things that you can necessarily ask for. It's one of those things that you earn and that you get through the content. So if the content starts to lose the audience, that is less on the audience and more on the presenter. Now, this can feel off of sorts, but let's just think about the remote culture that we have now, where it's totally acceptable for me to turn off my camera or to put myself on mute. Now you have no idea what I'm doing on the other side of that. You don't know if I'm checking my email, if I'm playing Fortnite. Now, none of these things I should be doing, I should be paying attention, but is it something worth paying attention to? So I bring this back to less how meetings were done pre a COVID era and more how meetings are happening post-COVID. And it becomes ever more important for us as the presenters to make it so that people want to be present. I don't think you can just ask people to be present. I think you have to have the content, you have to have the presentation skills, and you have to know your audience, and you have to design for that audience. Yes, if you're a part of the audience, you should be a respectful member of an audience, or you should lead. But I do think when we're talking about a work environment, there's a mutual respect there. There has to know that I know when I can turn on and when I can turn off, and that I have that capability, that I know when you're doing an introduction that I've already caught part of this part of the meeting, and that I can go and I can do other parts, because we're trying to get so much done at one time and there's already too many meetings. So to suggest that I can't do stuff during this meeting only makes it more difficult. And when you ask people to either be 100% present or leave, you risk having some people leave. Now, this is not going to be a very popular notion. Some people are going to disagree with this. They're going to talk about the respect side of it. They're going to talk about the being present. They're going to talk about the need to sort of listen to your coworkers. I agree with all of that. I'm just suggesting two things. One, as presenters, we do have to make a stronger case for ourselves. Let's not ignore that. But then two, as the audience, let's give them a little bit of respect. Let's know that they can take notes, that they can do other tasks while they're also listening to us at the same time, and that it's not really a fight worth fighting. It's going to happen anyway, especially in a remote work environment. So the best thing we can do is improve our presentation skills. But what I just thought, book was fascinating. Get it, $1 trillion coach. Not a lot of contradiction in it, just to that one, where I thought it was funny that Bill says, be present, and at the same time he gives an example of where he himself was not present. But it does mean that we can be successful, we can multitask, and we can both be present but be elsewhere at the exact same time. And that is, I think, it speaks well to the coworkers that we've surrounded ourselves with. All right, that's all I got. My rant for the day. That's the shit show that we're in. I'd love to hear what you think. And should I be present or should I allow my coworkers to multitask? All right, chat later.